All right. So we talked about last time. We have the big projects that we have to do. I wish more people were here so we could talk a little bit more about that tonight. But the main purpose of the meeting, we're going to go through the Army crew team case and discuss it. And then Tyler, since you weren't here last week, I don't know if you've looked at it, but what it is the group leader each week is the only one that has to submit a write-up about the case and about our discussion. So I said I'd do it for this week, and then I guess if one of you two want to take it next week since no one else is here,
Okay.
then we can do that. But there's some discussion prompts that we can just talk about with the case and go from there. I was going to try to find discussion leader assignment. Yeah.
Okay. Blake, your speaker's off.
I can be the leader next week. Discussion leader next week.
Okay. And then I'll probably do it the week after that.
Hey, Cord.
Sorry I'm late.
You're good. Okay, so yeah, there's just a prompt for me as the discussion leader that I'll fill out and whatever, and that'll be the group leader's responsibility each week. So,
Okay.
For this week, they have some prompts here. I'll just ask the questions. We can all kind of talk about what we think happened with the case, and then there's like an evaluation thing at the end. So, hopefully, everyone had a chance to read the case.
Yeah.
So it says, why does the varsity team lose to the JV team? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's because the JV had more of that, that mentality of they had nothing to lose. None of them were distractors. They were team players. They worked well together. And in that type of sport where it takes everyone working together, and it's not so much about the individual and his abilities, it's about the team. I think even though they individually weren't as good as the varsity, the fact that they're able to work together, they were able to accomplish a lot more.
Yeah, well, they actually, it said in the thing they weren't as strong, they weren't all that stuff. Like you said, it was that teamwork mentality that made it so they could beat them. And then, so that's why the coach was, trying to experiment to see who would work the best together.
Yeah, the way they determined varsity and JV is off of an individual performance type deal. And you might be one of the most strongest, best rowers individually according to the test, but that doesn't mean you're going to work the best as a team as far as being synchronized and helping out. So that's kind of what I thought. They didn't really test the rowers according to their teamwork ability. It was just their individual skills.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought the biggest thing was. It focused a lot on the teamwork application of it. They have to be able to work good as a group, not individually. And so that's what made the biggest difference.
Let me pull this up here. So it says, did the varsity members engage in too much conflict? And then it follows up by saying, is there an appropriate place for conflict among the members of the varsity crew or among the members of any team? So I guess even outside of the case, if you guys think there's a place for conflict and if the varsity team did engage too much.
I think that conflict can be good because if you don't have conflict, you don't, if you're not confronting each other, then you're not going to learn from your mistakes. And if you're slowing the team down, unless someone confronts you, you have no idea.
I think it can drive, it can energize, it can motivate. If there's problems, I mean, you get your adrenaline going and you feel like I want to prove this person wrong or I want to be better. But I don't know that it really benefits in a teamwork sense of having conflict. I think it's okay to have disagreements and to discuss things, but I think conflict takes it a little further than just a disagreement, in my opinion.
Yeah. When I think of conflict, I think of like a lot of pointing fingers, I guess, and thinking that you're never part of the problem, that it's always someone else. And so I think that's where a lot of conflict can come in, is people start blaming others and for whatever reason, but they never think that they never can humble themselves and think that they're part of the problem and admit that they're wrong. It's always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
So I just saw this. It says scholars identify 2 types of team conflict. The first one is task conflict, where people disagree about the task to be accomplished. And then the next one is effective conflict, where people have interpersonal conflict, where people get frustrated and angry with one another. See, I was thinking of more the effect. Task conflict, where it says people disagree about the task to be accomplished. I can see some good in that. If there's a task that everyone's working towards and people have different ideas of how to get there, I think bringing a difference of opinion or maybe a view can help to change, to alter the current like pathway to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What role did trust play in the problems varsity crew faced?
I think they started worrying about they didn't trust that their teammates would do their job. They said that you weren't supposed to like make adjustments in your technique when you felt someone made a mistake. You were just supposed to keep just focus on your job and your part. And I think that they got worried about things that weren't in their control and try to make adjustments, and that's when it makes the boat go slower, from what I understood.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can see how it'd be hard to trust them if you don't, until you know them well, because your first reaction to someone's mistake is how can you fix it, or what can you do differently. So if you put it down from the reading, it just messes it up more. So.
And even from the very beginning, it talked about how even if you recognize mistakes are going on within the boat, like you got to focus on your own job and know what you're supposed to do, and just trust that they're supposed to, that everybody else will do it. But as soon as you start to change or try to overcompensate for other people, mistakes and the failure of the boat happen.
Yeah. It seemed almost like the varsity team, they were kind of like on eggshells with each other, I guess, where they were like afraid to make a mistake because someone would jump down their throat, versus when you create a kind of a environment of trust and everyone is more comfortable and they know that if they make a mistake that their teammate has their back, they're not going to freak out on them. It kind of makes it easier to perform at a high level when you don't have to feel like you're like walking on eggshells, I guess.
Yeah, it also gives them that confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, another part of it that says, what happens to team trust if you replace one member of the team? But I think it hurts it. Like, trust is something that has to be earned. It comes over time. So if you are pulling one person out and putting another one in, it's kind of like starting over again because y'all have to work together and make sure you trust everybody. So
that's going to set back.
Yeah, I think it hurts. Another thing it says is trust. Let me find it. Is trust in the team the same as trust in individual team members?
I don't think so. I think there's two parts of trust. There's a character part, and then there's a competence part. So, like, for example, I could trust maybe a guy in my team to, do something like feed my dog from out of town. But I wouldn't trust him to, if he's not like a sports guy, to go. I wouldn't trust him to go perform well in a basketball game. It's not because I don't trust his character, it's just because he's not competent. And I think in a team setting, I mean, you can trust someone to babysit your kids, but you wouldn't trust them to be on your rowboating team, not because they're a bad person. It's just because they're not competent.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else have some comments on trust? Well, we only have 4 people tonight, and we got started late. I'm going to kind of go through this quicker than usual, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I got some other stuff I need to do. So
Yeah. Same.
the next part, it says, what should the coach have done differently? I guess I can start. One of the things I think is he waited too long to have the big sit down with the varsity team and let everyone get their feelings out and talk about it. Like, yeah, he tried little things along the way, but I think clearly he knew there was some problems between team members and people were getting frustrated. And it was like 2 weeks or something before the big race that he's waiting to have this big sit down and talk with all the players. So I think it just should have come earlier. Communication could have been a lot better, bringing team members together and allowing them to discuss and talk about their problems.
Yeah. I think, too, one thing that from the very beginning I think he could have done is had some team building activities and given them an opportunity to work together in settings that
Your car in front of my car, please.
It's on the counter right now.
No, please come.
give an opportunity for them to kind of see who the leaders are, who some of like the more quiet guys are, and get to know each other and kind of build more of a relationship with each other and understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. I know before IBC, we did that. We go to Badger Creek and you do a bunch of team building activities, and it's a good time for you to form friendships and kind of see what people's strengths are and who's good at performing high stress situations. And I think if you build that camaraderie and that brotherhood almost, you can kind of see who's better in teams and kind of see who's going to be better maybe for something that's more individual. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with how long you waited to do it is they started working together a little bit, and they should have done it, like you said, team building stuff. This is the beginning because you waited too long, then it kind of tore up, and then we had even a bigger setback from that.
Yeah.
But I think, like, from the coach's perspective, that if the team would have been able to solve the problems on their own, they probably would have grown a lot better and stronger, you know. So I can understand why he was trying to wait, but he definitely should have stepped in just a little bit earlier. But had that team been able to solve their problems together, like the camaraderie and the bond they would have built would have been a lot stronger. Explore them.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point. What should the coach do now? And then it just says, what do you think Coach P should do on Tuesday? Be specific about exactly what you think he should do and why. How will it impact the team? What are the risks of the approach you recommend?
I think he should start the JV team. I think one thing too in leadership, you got to realize you're not going to please everyone, and obviously that's going to not please the varsity. But you got a very strong reason why you're doing it, and it's just because they've performed and they've won. So I think that's what he should do.
I absolutely agree with that because if he starts a JV team, it's hopefully it'll motivate the varsity more.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the main. That'd be the main, if I was a coach, that'd be my main thing. Hopefully, I can motivate my varsity because they should be better. They should perform better. But unless they can work together as a team, then they don't deserve that spot.
I agree. I think like we talked about trust earlier, more of a reason to trust the JV team to pull off the win because of how they've been performing, working as a team. And for them to even know that, like, hey, coach trusts us with this. He thinks we can do it. He thinks we'll perform better. It's like even an extra motivation for them going into the race that the coach has their back and he's putting them in that spot. So I think that's the good way to go.
I think you guys summed it up good.
Okay, there's a article here. Share the following Fortune article on what Coach P did. So I'm just going to read it. I guess we'll find out what happened. So, coach of the Army crew at West Point a few years ago faced a baffling problem. Through extensive testing, he had developed objective criteria to rank his rowers. He then put the 8 best in his dream team in the varsity boat and the 8 others in the junior varsity boat. The problem: JV beat the varsity 2/3 of the time. The situation, as explained in a Harvard Business School case, was that the varsity was full of resentment over who was contributing most, while the JV, feeling they had nothing to lose, supported one another happily. One day, I don't know how to pronounce the coach's last name, Przeskli or something, lined up in the varsity crew in 4 pairs. He told them they were to wrestle, no punching, for 90 seconds. There were no clear winners. Each man was discovering that his opponent was just as strong and determined as he was. The coach then had them change opponents and wrestle again. By the 3rd round, they were choosing their own opponents. One guy would point at another guy and say, "You." Finally, one of the rowers started laughing, and they all piled into a general brawl. Eventually, someone said, "Coach, can we go row now?" From then on, the varsity boat flew. You probably can't order members of an executive team to wrestle, tempting though it may be. But bringing tensions out into the open and resolving them is one of the team leader's most important jobs. So I guess it doesn't say who he raced, but according to that, it changed the teamwork and the perspective and the attitude of the varsity boat, and they started. It just says they flew, which I assume they started beating the JV team. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
apparently just that wrestling match let them get their emotions out and kind of, I don't know, to me it seemed like the biggest thing was they just quit taking everything so seriously and putting so much pressure on themselves, and finally got to the point where they just laughed and had had enough of that.
Yeah. And I think they realized that, like it said, that everyone else was just as strong as they were. That, you know, there really wasn't a weak link. That wasn't the issue.
Anyone else have some thoughts on that?
Yeah.
No? Okay, so one of the last things, there's just a couple feedback and wrap-up questions that we'll each go through and answer. So the first one is, ask each team member what is the most important thing they learned from this case.
For me, it's probably teamwork. As I've gotten older, I realize that it's hard to do things individually, and also trusting others.
I'd say
Yeah.
for me it was trust.
Trust.
Just the ability to be able to trust other people, and they'll get their job done. But just do what you're supposed to and have that trust. I think that's what really helps make people successful.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's hard. It's trust and teamwork. I think they kind of go hand in hand. You can't really have teamwork unless you trust each other.
I think for me it was the overall like theme. I guess you could say that you accomplish a lot more as a team than you can individually. Like you have a whole team of people and one person isn't doing their job, it hurts the whole team. So just the importance of every team member.
Yeah.
Ask each team member to rate the overall quality of today's discussion from 0 to 10.
10, of course.
Oh yeah.
Go for 10.
I think really, if we just could get everyone to come and be prepared and talk, like, yeah, they're not the most fun things to do, and we all have things we'd rather be doing than these discussions, but you do learn and grow as we all discuss them. So I don't know if any of you know the other team members, but if we can get them to come and be prepared and then talk about some different points of the case. But I think for what tonight is, it's good. Our first one.
How many are we missing?
Sam had it here on my email.
Jared.
Sam and Jared, I think, are the only two.
Blake, was it who dropped?
Adele.
That was
No, that's a different class. Did Blake drop?
No, I don't know.
who dropped?
No, I'm pretty sure it was like that Adele or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking at our emails right now.
So now we're just missing Sam and
Jared.
wait, who's not on my? Oh yeah, Sam and Jared.
Oh, yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
I think there's a couple more questions. What did I do as a discussion leader that you liked?
I liked how you took
Give me
responsibility
some compliments, guys. Come on.
and coordinated everything.
Yeah.
You facilitated the conversation well.
Yeah. He kept it going smooth, and you got this together, so it's awesome. And you asked good questions.
They took this from companionship inventory, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Because the next question is, what can I do better as a discussion leader next time?
Not eat your dinner in front of us and make us
Okay.
hungry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there a time next week that works for you guys, or should we just talk about it in email and try to figure it out? 'Cause we really need to get organized for that project. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, so it doesn't just creep up on us when we're
When's the project due?
Week 4, I think it said.
yeah.
Which,
I think it's February 6th.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe let's just tell everybody to kind of check it out this weekend, and then let's just talk about it over email.
Should we try to meet Monday or Tuesday? I think that'd be good if we could, like, have everyone try to be prepared, read over it, see what's required, and then meet Monday or Tuesday and figure it out. Does that work?
I'm good Monday. If anybody else is, but whatever.
Yeah, Monday works for me.
I'm good with whatever. Just let me know.
Okay, I'll send an email and see if we can get some more replies, or someone can, and we can see what time Monday works for everybody. Try to get everyone else to show up.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Sounds
I'll
good.
post this to the community, and then I'll do the leadership assignment. I think that. Anyway, thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
See you guys.